Just a couple of slides. Keep going, keep going. Yes.
Okay.
So when I look at phase one on the left,
Yes.
I don't see what you just showed me in the last slide. I see it looks like a three-sided building and then a beautiful green space there as a courtyard.
Yes. So it will be an urban interior courtyard. There will be lots of trees and fountains and water features. There are three sides to the building. If I go back and show you this slide, it really still is, Councillor Hamilton, three sides to the building. It just looks like there is more just because this is all built form that still is the second story of the building will cover the entrance ramps that go down into the underground parking. So that's why it looks like it might be a little bit confusing, but it still is a three-story or three-sided building.
Fair enough, thank you. I'll save any other questions for later.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this, Bob. And I just want to reassure the residents here that you're not alone in the problems you face with the division you bought into. I've had to deal with it in East Markham several times, and it is important that we work with the developer to try and rectify the situation. And in this case, we've got a willing applicant, it appears, who it seemed wanted to put in the lake type situation right from the start, but the TRCA got in our way, and the TRCA gets in my way many times, and they're a problem to deal with. No disrespect to the Deputy Mayor. So please, if there's any blame to be given anywhere, perhaps share it around a bit, because they are a problem. However, let's move forward positively. We've got a willing applicant now who wants to do her best to rectify the situation. I think we should look at it as a committee to put it as a condition of approval for phase one, should phase one go ahead on the 17th, that the applicant deals with the lake and put it back into the form that was presented for the people when they bought their homes around it. That's one way to move forward, and I think the people could agree with that. And the second thing is, with these buildings I'm looking at, I know it's late in the game, but I'm seeing it from a different angle here with the church, etc. To me, it looks like some sort of new prison. I don't think
The architecture for this phase is quite consistent with the architecture that has been built for Garden Court.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen this picture before from the back end. That's what I'm saying is, Bob. To me, it doesn't end whatsoever. I think you could have done a more European style and blended gradually from the main street into a more piazza type of environment. So I think there's still a little bit of work to do in this, but I hope I would get support to seek approval for the lake to be mandatory for the lake to be upgraded in order to get approval to proceed with phase one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regional Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, like everything you just shown in the picture, but you know, I just have to remind you, in the Chinese proverb, I quote, "If you can't deliver what you promise, your trust has been shaken forever." So in other words, whatever promises that you made to all the audience in this room tonight, 10 years ago, when they bought one of the units, I want to know from you personally, in black and white, when are you going to deliver that promise that you made 10 years ago before we move forward? You have to show some kind of sincerity. You know, I mean, right now, I don't hear anything. All you want is get my Facebook approved, and I worry about Facebook.
In fact, I have already put in writing exactly what my client is prepared to do, and I have just reiterated everything that she has committed to doing.
You mean in black and white, a date and everything when you implement it, stage by stage?
Councillor, you probably are aware But it is pretty impossible to commit.
How I'm going to be away when you never consulted me, when you never have a chance to educate me?
Councillor, it's pretty impossible to commit to timelines associated with the municipal planning approvals process. The thing that I can do, to the best of my ability, is make sure that as soon as phase 1 is done, that I can move forward very, very quickly.
Please, somebody's talking.
Well, anyway, I'm not satisfied this day. I will wait to listen to the rest of the day. Thank you.
Well, I got another councillor, Councillor Cathedraltown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Listen to you, Councillor Hamel.
Also, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to our Commissioner, I haven't seen any open space or green space in the site. Are they meeting their parkland dedication for this project? Are they meeting their parkland dedication?
What you're seeing here is the most urban, highest density area within the cathedral, and it was always planned to be that. So this is the core, the center of the cathedral precinct. There are many other parks distributed throughout the cathedral secondary plan. The closest open space, of course, is the green area to the north and east that you see there. Now, most of that is in a naturalized state, so it didn't get any park credit. The Belvedere, that strip we were talking about.
Just the mouse, please. The mouse.
Yeah. So the Belvedere will receive a park credit because it's table land, and it will be programmable.
Is programmable open space?
Well, it's when I say programmable, it's more a hard surface, urban, ceremonial, benches, seating, overlook.
It's like a park.
But it gets a park credit.
It's like a park. What size of the open space we are talking? What's the
dimension on the?
You know, only on a broad level, Jim, all I know is that the center of Cathedraltown is 200 acres, and there is about 40 acres that has been dedicated to the municipality for open space and for parklands. So that represents approximately 20% of the entire lands within the Cathedraltown planning area.
Bob, do you have the dimensions for the Belvedere?
No, I don't.
So can we build a community park in the site?
No, the Belvedere is not a community park, but there are other community parks within the broader community.
Where is only there?
When we report back, we can include. I'll ask the planners to include a map showing all of the parkland distribution in the area. But again, this particular area immediately adjacent to the cathedral, it's a much more urbanized. This is to be the active animated, so you'll have shopping and restaurant type uses is the intent to animate the core, and whatever open spaces are right within this black line area will be hard surface ceremonial type spaces, urban squares, not grassland parks.
Thank you. All the developers to dedicating the fascia in that area.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councillor Moretti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bob, thank you for the presentation. Just a couple of points of clarification. You said in your presentation that you need phase 1 approval before we could start working with the Belvedere League in open spaces. Is that correct?
No, I'm happy through conditions of approval of the draft plan of subdivision as part of phase 1 to start with the designs for the lake and the Belvedere.
But do you need, my understanding is that you needed phase 1 approval before you would start with that?
When the report comes to you with a recommendation for approval, that will allow me, that will be the trigger for me to start the designs for the lake and the Belvedere. So as a condition of approval on the draft plan of subdivision, as it pertains to phase 1, I fully anticipate that there will be a condition related to the lake and the Belvedere, which will kickstart my doing the design for that.
Thank you. And just as a point of housekeeping, on page 152, page 2 of the report, to the clerk, I guess, we have on April 29th, that should read April 16th meeting. The date was incorrect there. And also, since we're going to be discussing the working group, I noticed that a composition of the working group that's missing, a component of it on the page 4. We don't have a show that candidate representatives will be part of it to the commissioner.
That is certainly the intent. The
So I
applicant,
think we need to correct that, because I think if you're going to have a working group, you'll need the applicant around the table. And I have some other comments, but I want to hear from the residents first, and then I'll make those comments after they speak. Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions, Bob. One is that I like to see the pond and that become a little more manicured than versus the form it's in. But my questions now is, where does the church park when it's back in session? And when will the cathedral be ready for church-type services?
The intention is to have the cathedral open next year. And the cathedral is a site of construction right now, internally, inside it. So we need to complete the internal works in order for us to open up the cathedral.
But where are they going to park? Because when I see these plans and I see everything is taken up and there's no lands for parking, is there going to be a parking structure?
There are lands currently to the north of the cathedral that are designated as a temporary parking area until the construction of the parking for phase 2 to support the cathedral is completed.
Okay, I got one more person, Councillor Holt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, through you to Bob. Well, I think, is now we are in a situation of, chicken and egg, because, it's a matter of, trust and mistrust. The residents are very much afraid that once, we have approved phase 1, and then, the construction of the Belvedere will be forever. So I believe that, they are looking for a timetable for the Belvedere. That's why, they wanted to include the Belvedere in phase 1. And I understand, your difficulty is that because of the lag, TRCA issue, that kind of thing, it cannot be done immediately. But still, the residents really want to know when the Belvedere be finished before they will approve, further phases, phase 2, phase 3, something like that. So I don't know how you're going to handle this.
Yeah, I don't know either, Councillor Ho. I would love to be able to say tomorrow, but staff and myself, we need to have a roll up your sleeves meeting with the TRCA to get the lake on the way that it should be. And when we can do that and get the designs done and the designs of the Belvedere, then we should be in a good position to be able to tell you the timing on that. But as I've mentioned, I fully anticipate that the lake and the Belvedere will be part of the conditions of approval for phase 1. So.
And maybe some of other councillors, they are on the board of TRCA, they can provide us with some input about the the TRCA decision on the lake, on the creek, that kind of thing. Mr. Chair, is it possible?
Well, Deputy Mayor is on the TRCA, and definitely I think there's quite a few members of council are interested in meeting with the TRCA, not only with necessarily this piece, but other places in Markham too. So it could be a lineup to get on this committee once you have the TRCA there. So I think we're all concerned.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Bob, you can sit down and we'll start the second half. We're going to have